What if caring less could actually be the secret to making her care more? Sounds strange, right? But stay with me. In today's video, we're diving into one of the most intriguing paradoxes in relationships. Why a woman often needs you not to care in order to love you. Picture this: a man who is steady, grounded, and confident in his own worth, whether he receives attention or not. That's the type of man who piques curiosity and earns deeper affection. Today, I'll share with you how mastering this mindset, understanding the art of genuine, balanced indifference, can transform not only your dating life, but your self-perception. You'll learn why women are naturally drawn to men who exude the quiet confidence of knowing they are whole, whether they're pursued or not. It's time to discover how cultivating this emotional independence, rooted in Stoic principles, can make you the kind of man who doesn't just attract attention, but commands it. Ready to break down why true attraction starts when you stop trying so hard? Let's dive in. Number 1. The Paradox of Indifference. Listen closely. What I'm about to tell you might sound counterintuitive, even a little uncomfortable. But trust me, it's one of the most eye-opening insights into relationships and attraction. Women need you not to care, at least not in the way you might think, for them to truly love or even like you. It's a paradox, isn't it? Society and popular media have conditioned us to believe that relentless pursuit and boundless devotion are the keys to a woman's heart. But reality paints a different picture. The more you lean in, the more you chase, the more your value seems to shrink. Why? Because when you place your sense of self-worth in her hands, you become a mere echo of her decisions and emotions. This is not about being cold or heartless. It's about understanding and embodying a powerful truth of attraction. Let me illustrate this with an example. Imagine two men. One, a man who is always available, responding to every text within seconds, rearranging his life at the drop of a hat to cater to her needs. The other, a man who respects himself, who doesn't fear silence, who can say no when he needs to. Now, which man do you think stirs more curiosity, more admiration, and more genuine attraction? It's the second one, without question. Why? Because he signals that he has a life that doesn't revolve around her, that he holds the reins of his own happiness. Women are drawn to men who exude an unspoken confidence, men who are whole with or without their attention. It's essential to understand this isn't about playing games or employing manipulative tactics. The concept goes deeper. It's about demonstrating self-respect. When you show that you're not swayed by every emotional tide, that you're not desperate for approval, you become someone worth knowing, worth loving. And this is where a touch of Stoic wisdom comes in handy. Remind yourself daily that you are the guardian of your own peace. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The lesson? Your emotional state is yours alone to master, and nothing is more attractive than a person who can stand steady when life throws its storms. Think of this paradox of indifference as a boundary that says, "I value you, but I value myself too." Women, whether consciously or subconsciously, respond to this balance. It tells them that while you care, you're not dependent. You have interests, passions, and an inner world that thrives regardless of whether or not she reciprocates your attention in that moment. Here's another example to bring this home. Let's say you're dating someone, and she starts pulling back, becoming distant. The instinctive reaction might be to chase harder, to ask what's wrong, to double down on showing how much you care. But here's the twist. Stepping back, giving space, and not reacting with fear of loss communicates something profound. It shows that your emotional stability isn't reliant on her. This silence, this space, can be more powerful than 1,000 words or grand gestures. It whispers a message. I am here because I choose to be, not because I need to be. In this way, by caring a little less in a desperate way, you invite her to care more. She begins to wonder, to think, to miss. And isn't that the heart of attraction? That moment when you realize the other person is not yours by default, that they exist outside of your control. So, take this paradox to heart, not to detach or act indifferent as a facade, but to truly find peace in your own worth. By caring just enough, by not centering your entire world around her approval, you create the conditions for real, deep connection to blossom. And that is where love truly begins. Number 2. Myth-busting modern dating beliefs. Let's shatter a few myths today. Myths that might be holding you back in the world of dating without you even realizing it. You've probably heard over and over that women crave a strong, masculine leader who sets clear standards, knows what he wants, and pursues it relentlessly. While there is some truth to the idea that confidence is attractive, caring too much can send the opposite signal of what you intend. Here's the twist that might surprise you. When your attention crosses the fine line from being genuinely interested to overly invested, you're broadcasting a message that can undermine your worth in her eyes. Why is that? Because excessive caring, manifested as constant checking in, too much availability, or an eagerness that borders on desperation, tells her, consciously or subconsciously, that you're not as valuable as her other options. You may be thinking, but isn't showing interest the way to win her heart? The reality is, in today's dating culture, perception is everything. The moment she senses that you're too eager, it can come across as a lack of self-assurance, or even as a sign that you have no better options. Consider the Stoic principle of emotional detachment. It's not about being cold or closed off. It's about maintaining a balance where you are emotionally resilient and unaffected by external judgments. Picture a scenario where you're dating someone new and things are going well, but then she starts to pull back. The impulse might be to prove your value by doubling down on your attention. But here's where the Stoic wisdom kicks in. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality, as Seneca once pointed out. Your fear of losing her, your attempt to compensate with more effort, only makes you appear less certain of your worth. Instead, understand this. When you focus less on how she perceives you and more on how you perceive yourself, you shift the dynamic. You're not pretending to be distant. You're genuinely cultivating your inner peace and confidence. Women notice this subtle energy. They can feel when a man is at ease with himself, when his happiness isn't tethered to their response. Now, let's get into how caring too much can actually backfire. Imagine you're constantly sending good morning texts, showering her with compliments, and making sure she knows just how interested you are. While it might seem sweet and thoughtful, this behavior can imply that you don't believe you're enough as you are, that you need to prove your value through relentless effort. On the flip side, a man who has his own life, interests, and isn't afraid of silence communicates confidence. He doesn't try too hard because he knows he doesn't have to. Stoicism teaches that your self-worth should never be anchored to the approval or opinions of others. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." This doesn't mean that you act recklessly or arrogantly. It means you are at peace with how you are perceived, because your value doesn't waver with someone's opinion. Carry that mindset into your dating life. When you show that your emotional state isn't dependent on her actions or responses, you convey strength, the kind of strength that silently but unmistakably demands respect. So remember this: caring too much in the early stages, when it feels unearned, can hurt your dating value. It's not about indifference, but about preserving your emotional space and showing that you have a life, a purpose, and self-respect that isn't up for negotiation. That's the kind of confidence that draws her in, and it's the kind that keeps her intrigued. Number 3. Understanding interest and attraction. Let me share something that might challenge your beliefs, but could transform the way you approach relationships. The more you openly show you care, the less attractive you can become. I know this sounds harsh, maybe even confusing, especially when the world tells you that being openly expressive is a sign of strength. But here's the truth that many men overlook. Women are incredibly perceptive when it comes to reading the balance of interest and attraction in a relationship. They can sense when the dynamic shifts, when you're trying just a little too hard, and this awareness can reshape their perception of you. It's not because they're playing games, but because human nature, particularly attraction, follows certain patterns. And understanding these patterns can make all the difference. Imagine this scenario. You're dating someone you really like. She texts you, and before the notification even finishes vibrating, you're already typing back with a smile on your face. You keep the conversation going with enthusiasm, initiate plans, check in constantly to see how she's doing. To you, it feels right. You're being caring, attentive, present. But what you don't realize is that with each eager text and effort to keep the spark alive, you're tilting the scale. You're signaling to her, consciously or subconsciously, that you're investing far more in her than she's investing in you. And here's the paradox. What you're doing out of genuine care can make you seem as though you lack other options, as though your world orbits around her. This isn't about playing hard to get or masking your interest. It's about preserving your self-respect and, by extension, your attractiveness. Women are drawn to men who have an air of mystery, an unspoken confidence that says, "I like you, but I'm not dependent on you." That's where true attraction grows. Now, I'm not saying you should be cold or distant. This isn't about cultivating an air of arrogance or acting disinterested. It's about striking that perfect balance where she knows you're interested but not consumed. A man who respects himself and his time projects an aura that is undeniably attractive. He's not afraid of losing her because he knows that his worth isn't defined by her approval or attention. Here's a more relatable analogy. Think of attraction like a dance. If you step forward every single time without waiting for her to mirror that step, you're no longer dancing together. You're leading too aggressively, and the rhythm is off. Attraction needs space to grow, and space doesn't mean disinterest. It means respecting the flow. So, what does this look like in practice? It means not responding immediately to every message, not bending over backward for every plan change, and not seeking validation from her reactions. It's about making sure that when you show up as someone who is present and engaging, but whose life is full with or without her. Women don't need a man who constantly proves his value. They need a man whose value speaks for itself. A man who isn't afraid of moments of silence, who doesn't rush to fill every gap with reassurances or compliments, projects an undeniable strength. That's what draws her in. That's what keeps her coming back for more. So, take a step back, recalibrate, and remember, true attraction is not in how much you care, but in how much you value yourself while caring. Number 4, the psychological effect of emotional detachment. Have you ever wondered why it seems like the men who don't chase, who aren't constantly checking in or trying to please, end up being the ones that women find most intriguing? Here's the answer. It's all about the psychological effect of emotional detachment. And before you think this is about being aloof or cold, let me explain what emotional detachment really means in the context of attraction, and why it works so powerfully. By not showing that you care about every little detail, by not being overly available or eager to please, you become more of a mystery, a puzzle she wants to solve, a project she feels drawn to figure out. It taps into a fundamental aspect of attraction, the thrill of the chase, the desire to win over someone who isn't easily impressed or swayed. In a world saturated with instant validation, where attention is as cheap as a like or a heart on social media, being the man who can remain composed and detached sets you apart. Think about a situation where you're on a date and she's telling a story that doesn't quite capture your interest. The instinct for many is to overcompensate, to show exaggerated attention and laugh at every joke in hopes of making her feel good and liked. But what happens if you listen attentively, but without over-the-top reactions? You nod, you respond thoughtfully when needed, but you don't act like you're trying too hard. She starts to wonder, did I really make him laugh? Does he really think I'm that funny? This subtle intrigue works in your favor. You're not indifferent. You're genuine, and that makes her more curious about you. Women are drawn to men who have mastered the art of composure, who can show interest without making it seem like their world hinges on her response. When she sees that you're not hanging on her every word or making every decision based on whether it will please her, it signals that you have a life, a purpose, and an identity that are independent of her validation. That's attractive because it shows you're someone worth winning over, not someone already won. Why does this work so effectively? Because, whether consciously or subconsciously, people are wired to value what is scarce. Attention given too freely and without discretion is often taken for granted. It's the attention that must be earned, the moments when she feels she's gained a piece of your interest, that creates a sense of value. Think of it this way. The more she senses that she has to work to get your full attention, the more she values the moments when she finally has it. Now, let's touch on the subtle art of detachment itself. This isn't about manipulating or pretending not to care. It's about genuinely understanding that your sense of self-worth isn't dictated by whether or not she's into you. Embrace the Stoic teaching of self-mastery. In the realm of dating, this means mastering your own emotions and reactions. When you can maintain your composure, whether she seems eager or aloof, you're signaling that you're not seeking her approval to feel whole. And that, my friends, is the essence of what makes a person irresistible. Take, for instance, those moments when she tests your patience, late replies, ambiguous messages, or a hint of disinterest. The man who stays emotionally detached handles it with ease. He doesn't bombard her with follow-up texts or try to force an explanation. Instead, he moves on with his day, content with his own pursuits. This sends a message that he's strong, confident, and secure, not needy or reactive. It's the kind of energy that makes her question, why isn't he affected like others? What is it about him that makes him so centered? In the end, emotional detachment is about showing that while you care, you don't overinvest in every interaction. It's the quiet confidence of knowing that you're complete on your own. It's being able to walk away if needed, not as a tactic, but because you truly value yourself. Women need that subtle challenge. It's what pulls them in. It shows them you're a man who doesn't just go with the flow of attention, you create your own. If you've made it this far, It shows you're committed to understanding the deeper dynamics of attraction and self-mastery. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever practiced emotional detachment and noticed its impact on your relationships? Leave a comment sharing your experiences or simply type, "Emotional detachment is powerful." I'm looking forward to reading what you have to say. Now, let's continue on this journey together. Number 5. Dispelling the pushover myth. Let's address the elephant in the room. Does embracing emotional detachment make you a pushover? Absolutely not. In fact, this is one of the biggest misconceptions out there. The key to understanding why women need you not to care in order to truly love you lies in recognizing the difference between being indifferent in a healthy way and being a doormat. These two approaches couldn't be more different. Think about it. Being indifferent doesn't mean you lack values or boundaries. It doesn't mean you let people walk all over you, or that you don't care about the relationship or the person. No, it's about holding yourself to your own standards and not seeking validation through her reactions. It's about knowing that your worth isn't contingent on what someone else thinks of you. There's a confidence in that, a quiet strength that's impossible to ignore. And here's the surprising truth. Women are drawn to this kind of self-assuredness because it signals that you're not just another man seeking her approval to feel whole. Picture this. You're dating someone new, and she makes a joke at your expense, expecting you to laugh nervously or rush to defend yourself. The man who lacks this inner confidence might go overboard, trying to prove that he's in on the joke, or seek her reassurance that she's just kidding. But a man who understands the power of emotional detachment doesn't need to react that way. He might smile knowingly, shrug, or respond with playful banter of his own. He isn't rattled because his sense of self isn't shaken by a moment of teasing. This subtle response shows that he's secure and can hold his own without seeking her validation. She notices that. It sets him apart. So, how do you strike this balance without slipping into being indifferent or uncaring? The answer is simpler than you think. It starts with understanding that it's okay to say no sometimes. It's okay to have your own priorities and not rearrange them for every whim. When you stand your ground, you're subtly telling her, "I value you, but I also value myself." This is incredibly appealing because it shows that you're a man who has standards, and standards create a sense of respect and admiration. Here's another thing to consider. Emotional detachment doesn't mean being emotionally unavailable. It means you're steady and unfazed by the ups and downs that come with getting to know someone. You're not reactive, you're proactive. When things don't go as planned, whether she pulls back a bit, tests your patience, or acts uncertain, you don't flinch. You don't feel the need to scramble for her attention or seek reassurance. Instead, you respond calmly and stay true to who you are. You're not being a pushover. You're showing that your self-worth is unwavering. This mindset goes hand in hand with the Stoic principle that true confidence comes from within. Marcus Aurelius put it well when he said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Craving her constant approval or overextending yourself to show you care is what makes you appear needy or weak, not the act of caring itself. Women are naturally attracted to men who don't need external affirmations to feel complete. They're drawn to those who can stand their ground with kindness and self-assurance. So, the next time you're wondering if showing less care means you're being indifferent, remind yourself that it's about holding yourself to your own standards. It's about valuing her, but not at the expense of your own self-respect. When you embody this balance, you'll find that women are more likely to be intrigued, to invest, and to value what you bring to the table. And that, my friends, is what changes the game. Number 6. Modern challenges in dating. Let's be real for a moment. In 2024, dating isn't what it used to be. The landscape has completely changed with social media, dating apps, and the illusion of endless options at our fingertips. This shift has made traditional dating advice seem outdated and ineffective. The age-old idea of being the doting, always available romantic just doesn't have the same impact it once did. Most guys today are busy trying to prove they're the perfect catch, showing they care by texting frequently, leading conversations, and constantly checking in to make sure everything is going well. But here's the paradox. The more you do this, the more you blend in with every other guy out there. Think about it. How many times have you seen or experienced the cycle where someone's intense initial interest fizzles out just as quickly as it began? It's not because caring is wrong. It's because caring too much, too soon, is seen as overinvestment. It communicates that you're putting her on a pedestal and centering your actions around winning her approval. In a world where attention is cheap and available at the swipe of a finger, trying too hard can come across as desperate. Women, knowingly or unknowingly, pick up on this, and it affects how they perceive your value. Let me give you an example to illustrate this. Picture two guys on dating apps. One of them sends a message that reads like a paragraph, detailing how he enjoyed her profile, mentioning a shared interest, and ending with a question that clearly shows he put thought into it. The other guy sends a simple, confident message like, "Hey, I see you're into hiking. What's your go-to trail?" Guess which one is more likely to get a response? The latter. Why? Because it signals he's interested, but not over-invested. He's not trying to prove anything. He's just engaging. The first guy might seem sweet, but he's giving away too much interest before even establishing a connection. That level of care, especially early on, can read as needy. In today's dating world, the men who stand out are the ones who don't rush to please, who aren't anxiously seeking validation. This isn't to say you shouldn't show interest or be a decent human being. That's non-negotiable. But there's a fine line between showing interest and showing that you're emotionally invested before it's warranted. Women can sense when a man's behavior is driven by a need for approval versus genuine confidence. Consider the modern pressures men face. Social media is filled with influencers showcasing picture-perfect relationships, setting unrealistic expectations. Dating apps make it seem like there's always someone new around the corner, fostering a culture of disposability. In such an environment, it's easy to fall into the trap of trying to prove you're different by overextending yourself. You send texts that are too long, follow up too quickly, and make yourself too available, thinking it will make her see how serious you are. But what it actually does is show her that you're trying to convince her of your worth. That effort to seek validation can make you blend in with everyone else who is doing the same thing. Instead, be the guy who's composed. If she doesn't reply immediately, you don't flinch. If plans change or she seems distant, you don't rush to fill the silence with anxious texts. You maintain your course because you know who you are and what you bring to the table. You show that you're not rattled by modern dating's challenges, and that your sense of self doesn't sway with every like, reply, or unread message. Women need to feel that their interest is earned, not assumed. When you show that you're not desperate for her attention, you stand out from the sea of men who are. This subtle difference makes her think about you, wonder what you're doing, and even question why you're not clamoring for her attention like everyone else. It's not manipulation. It's respect for yourself and your boundaries. So, in this modern era of dating, where everyone's vying for attention and approval, take a step back. show that while you're open and interested, you're not bending over backward to seek validation. Embrace this approach, and you'll not only stand out, but you'll create the space for genuine interest to develop naturally. That's where real attraction begins, when she sees that you're not another man chasing her validation, but someone who values himself enough to let her come to him. Number 7. The Art of Genuine Indifference. Here's a question for you. How do you embody that elusive quality of genuine indifference that keeps her intrigued without coming across as distant or disinterested? The answer lies in mastering the mindset of, when I see you, I see you. When I don't, I don't. This isn't about being cold, rude, or playing hard to get. It's about focusing on your life so that her presence or absence doesn't dictate your happiness or behavior. Think about how many times you've felt compelled to check in just to reassure yourself that she's still interested. Maybe you find yourself sending that good morning text every day without fail, or constantly mentioning how much you miss her when she's not around. These gestures, while well-meaning, can sometimes signal that you're too emotionally invested too soon. The paradox? The more you show her that you're always thinking about her, the less space she has to think about you. So, what does genuine indifference look like in practice? It starts with shifting your mindset. Focus on living your life fully, whether she's in it every day or not. Pursue your hobbies, make time for friends, dive into your passions, and invest in your growth. When you do this, your attention becomes valuable. You're no longer the guy who's waiting for her to respond, or who rearranges his schedule at the drop of a hat just to be available. You become someone she has to wonder about, someone whose time and attention feel earned, rather than freely given without condition. Consider this example. You're seeing someone, and for a few days, she seems a bit distant or busy. The usual reaction might be to check in repeatedly, send multiple texts, or even express that you miss her just to feel connected. But the man who practices genuine indifference responds differently. He doesn't react impulsively or flood her with messages. Instead, he remains present in his own life, trusts that if she wants to reconnect, she will, and focuses on what's in front of him. This isn't a game. It's an approach rooted in self-respect and self-assuredness. The power of this mindset lies in what it communicates. By not being overly reactive to her behavior or constantly expressing your feelings, you signal that you're someone who values himself and his time. You show that while you enjoy her company, you don't depend on it to feel fulfilled. This subtle but powerful shift makes her take notice. She begins to wonder why you're not checking in as often, what you're doing when you're not with her, and what it is about you that makes you so confident and composed. One of the best things about practicing genuine indifference is that it aligns perfectly with Stoic wisdom. The Stoics believed that we cannot control the actions of others, only our response to them. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When you live this truth, you stop trying to control how someone feels about you or how much they're thinking about you. Instead, you focus on what you can control: your actions, your mindset, and your emotional well-being. Now, this doesn't mean you should never express interest or affection. Genuine indifference isn't about pretending not to care. It's about balancing your interest with your independence. It's perfectly fine to tell her you're excited to see her or that you enjoyed spending time together, but it's also okay not to remind her of that constantly. Letting her miss you is not a tactic. It's part of healthy relationship dynamics. when you refrain from making her the center of your thoughts 24/7. You're giving her space to wonder, to miss, and to reflect on what makes you different from everyone else. The more you embrace this mindset, the more you'll notice a change in the dynamic. You'll feel less anxious, less reactive, and more in control of your emotions. She, on the other hand, will notice that you're not like the others who make her the sole focus of their time and attention. She'll start to value the moments when you do show interest because she knows it's genuine and not driven by neediness. So, the next time you're tempted to send that extra text, pause. Remind yourself of the power of genuine indifference. Live by the mantra, when I see you, I see you. When I don't, I don't. It's not a tactic. It's a mindset that frees you from overthinking and places you in control of your happiness. The result? You become someone who doesn't just attract attention, you command it. And that, my friends, is where true attraction begins to deepen into something meaningful. Number 8. Mastering the balance. Let's get to the heart of the matter. Women need you to not care so that they can invest in you emotionally. At first glance, this might sound cold or detached, but it's not. It's about understanding the natural dynamics of attraction and emotional investment. Mastering this balance doesn't make you heartless. It makes you wise, self-assured, and highly attractive. Think of it this way. When you detach from the need for her approval and live your life with a focus on your own goals, passions, and well-being, you create a magnetic pull. You become the man who's not swayed by the tides of external validation. This quality is not only appealing, but it also commands respect. Why? Because it shows that you're not defined by the attention you receive, but by the path you choose to walk. Imagine a scenario where you're dating someone and things are going well. She's interested, but like anyone, she's also observing how you handle yourself. The men who often get overlooked are those who try too hard, showing they care with excessive texting, constant check-ins, and an overbearing need to ensure she knows she's valued. While caring isn't inherently bad, overcaring without balance signals insecurity. It tells her that you're placing your emotional equilibrium in her hands, a burden that feels more suffocating than flattering. Now, think about the man who genuinely doesn't care as much, not in a way that's dismissive, but in a way that reflects confidence. He doesn't need to chase validation because he knows what he brings to the table. He's attentive when they're together, but doesn't seek constant reassurance when they're apart. This man prioritizes his ambitions, nurtures his passions, and isn't afraid to take time for himself. What does this do? It piques her interest. It makes her wonder why he's so composed, what he's focused on, and what makes him different from everyone else vying for her attention. This approach isn't just useful for dating. It's a mindset that seeps into every area of life. Detaching from the need for approval helps you navigate challenges with resilience. When you're not tied to the opinions of others, whether it's in work, friendships, or relationships, you stand stronger. You become someone who's guided by internal conviction, not external praise. This is where true confidence stems from, and it's what makes you a man who can handle life's unpredictable nature. One of the greatest lessons from Stoic philosophy is that true strength lies in remaining unbothered and resilient in the face of external forces. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." This applies directly to relationships. You cannot control how someone feels about you or how they will respond to your efforts, but you can control how you present yourself and how much value you place on their validation. When you embrace this principle and learn to master the balance, something powerful happens. Women begin to feel the freedom to invest emotionally. They're not overwhelmed by your constant pursuit or the pressure of being the center of your world. Instead, they find themselves intrigued, wondering why you're so confident and what keeps you so centered. It's in this space that genuine attraction grows, when she realizes she wants to earn your attention, not just receive it by default. So here's the ultimate takeaway. Detach from the need to prove yourself. Care, but don't overinvest. Be present, but don't lose yourself. When you focus on your path, your goals, and your own well-being, you become the kind of person who naturally draws others in. Trust me, when you live by this mindset, you win, not just in dating, but in life. Because the man who is resilient, self-assured, and unbothered by things beyond his control is a man who commands respect and admiration. And that, my friends, is the essence of lasting attraction. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the paradox of attraction and emotional independence. We've explored why showing balanced indifference and valuing your own path can make you irresistible, not through games or tactics, but by embodying genuine confidence and self-respect. Remember, true attraction starts when you're fulfilled in your own life, and she sees that your happiness isn't dependent on her validation. If this insight resonated with you, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take on finding this balance. And if you're looking to deepen your understanding, check out the recommended videos on screen that dive further into self-mastery and relationship dynamics. Until next time, keep prioritizing your growth, stay grounded, and remember, your value starts from within. See you in the next video.